Encrypted codes and Nonz. So what is an encrypted code? So if you don't know, there was this gang fight I got into that inspired me to make this thing in Nonz. You see, last year was very, 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 phenomenal. Not just for, an 8th grade fan, but, literally a fan of gangsta, a fan of hip-hop, a fan of everything, because you know why? Because the definition of this was 8th grade, because 8th grade is when I went to a full gangsta sequence I didn't even know. So what ended up happening was, I was a squirrel growing up, I was a nerd, I just grew up watching everything on TV, like Dragon Ball Z, the Animal Planet, and so I just did what I like doing, and I had to, deal with like gangsters in reverse psychology growing up, and I didn't even know. So I'm going to tell you that Gabriel was actually in a gang war when he was young. What happens if they stuck into every single girl's house? So they were probably on phone call after phone call after phone call talking about, so who's the coolest guy in 8th grade? They're all thinking about me. Yes, young Gabiles had all the girls thinking about him in junior high. Literally, that caused a lot of trouble. That ended up Justin reaching out to her gang that was weaker than mine. That ended up, Mondo reaching out to her gang that was weaker than mine. But one thing we knew is that we both literally were on the same level of thinking. So there was a secret. Even the creator of the Figure Out Parents, Butch Hartman is also part, Latin. So while they were writing this, I felt like they were complete and total dicks because literally, they actually thought that fight was going to be 10 seconds. It turned out to be, 8 seconds. They thought that he was going to be by himself. They thought he was going to dunk me in the alleyway. And literally, they had no idea that he brought people because this is exclusive information. So what ended up happening was, when I ended up facing him, literally, he kept his distance and he tried everything. He tried every single secrets of a gang member. Do you know what that means? That means when you do this, I have to contact him for this, and that. But when you betray your gang leader, you have to become your own. And when that happens, you have to show responsibility. So what ends up happening is you can't contact other people. You have to figure it out on your own. Every sequence was covered, but there was still something he can do. So he kept on thinking, and he kept on getting information on top of information about my past. And literally what ended up happening was this. If I told you it wasn't the fact that he looked up my past, what if I told you that he hit me with everything from the very beginning? As soon as he chose a rock song on my iPod, he did something that no gangster already done before, so he automatically hit me with an entire timeline of a gangster. What I had to do is he had to bring it to civilization, because what he did was he brought me down to a point where, civilization didn't exist metaphorically. We couldn't act like gang this and gang that, or this or that, because we literally lived in a society to defeat the purpose of everything. What is an encrypted code? Armando is what taught me how to make an encrypted code. So one thing I'm heavy on is the anime community, and what I did was I created the most complex power scaling in the anime community. And how I love 8th grade and how I love all about my studies. This really taught me. You watch the anime community, they're hella fucking complex. I have made something more complex than then. And they never thought. You know why? It took a gangster experience. So what I did is I looked up really what lore was. And lore is connecting anime to history to make sure you make a reference that's, profitable, so you connect to a community instead of you connecting to yourself for an A and B. You connect to yourself to an A and B, but it's for a good reason. Let me tell you, what are encrypted codes? So what is the origin? Lore means origin. So what is the origin of encrypted? So anyway, there are two code users in Nonz. There are regular code users who literally use codes like computer codes. But what if I tell you encrypted codes are something you have to experience if you're a gangster? If I never experienced what I experienced while I'm on, there will be no encrypted codes. Do you know why? Because he was the first person in my comic book to achieve an encrypted code. Because as you saw the fight drag on, he went to more sequences that he even created. He combined sequences. He did so much, like literally, he hit me with an entire timeline every attack. So what I did was I gave him a sword. So encrypted codes, or literally when you trap somebody in the entire timeline. Another form of encrypted code in Nonz is when Boomer fought the Diary of Maria in Rim's Island, because he was able to trap it in a text into our universe. So an encrypted code is the entire timeline. So what ends up happening, if you trap someone in an encrypted code, they're stuck in a dimension. They're stuck in a dimension you create, and they control the steps of the way. That's exactly what Armand tried to do. He tried to trap me in this thing with Lily. If you try to run this way and that way, I trapped you in the hood that I created. But because I wasn't a street soldier, but I became street smart over time. I'm like, no exit, no exit. And when you try to block the exit, I use versus I know how to cheat. Armando was such a monumental figure in me and such a beautiful person. While I learned this, people were trying to hype up the fight for their own selfish reasons. If he doesn't take this fight seriously, the anime community will come back and hip hop will come back. So guess what ended up happening? I took the fight for what it was. I'm like, he came at me like an anime character. He wanted me to be overwhelmed. He wanted me to literally recognize it as literally I'm holding out on people. I'm literally letting people down when they're trying to bring me down. It was fucking crazy. It was one of the biggest street fights in history. I'm not letting it go. Didn't exaggerate it. I gave it the justice it needed. But guess what? Since you guys want spoilers so badly, I'm gonna spoil the second half of the second series for you. Psych! I'm only spoiling a move, or maybe some characters. So, I created the Wu-Tang Clan in 2020. It was in my head, and I kept it from everybody. So the Wu-Tang Clan is where we get their encrypted codes. They're the ancient ancestors who created their encrypted codes. So remember, lore is all about the origin. Where the origin of the pyramid scheme come from? Egypt, and all those little Egyptian timelines, that is where inspired their encrypted code. And Armand gets his name is Vladimir, will always go down the Hall of Fame of hip hop, and he gets his first sword. And literally, you think I don't respect Armando? When I put him in my comic book, I made sure that I had a sword that could trap you in an entire timeline. And guess what? I was so hyped on character development, I made sure it was only a sword, because Sortier, the guy who's based off Too Short, has an encrypted core sword that bends like Kurama's whip from Yu Yu Hakusho. So there you go. Remember, these are encrypted codes and Nonz.